For generations, the American history book began with a blank page, followed immediately by the footsteps of Christopher Columbus in 1492. We were taught a linear, simple narrative. The New World was isolated, cut off from the cultural and biological exchanges of Africa, Europe, and Asia, until the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria broke the horizon. But history is rarely simple, and it is almost never linear. Deep within the dense jungles of Veracruz and Tabasco, Mexico, the Earth hides secrets that challenge this standard timeline. In the mid-19th and early 20th centuries, explorers stumbled upon artifacts that didn't fit the picture of indigenous Americans they had been taught to expect. These were not arrowheads or pottery shards, they were colossal heads. These are the Olmec colossal heads, carved from single blocks of basalt, some standing nearly 10 feet tall and weighing up to 40 tons. They are the masterpieces of the Olmec civilization, often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, thriving from roughly 1400 BCE to 400 BCE. But when people looked at these faces, some saw something unexpected. They didn't see the typical features associated with Native American populations of that era. They saw broad noses, full lips, and fleshy faces. To the untrained eye, and later to specific scholars, these faces looked undeniably African. This visual observation sparked a firestorm that continues to burn in American discourse today. It gave birth to a powerful question. Is it possible that Africans, specifically West Africans or Nubians, crossed the Atlantic Ocean thousands of years before Columbus? Did they interact with, or perhaps even influence, the rise of civilization in the Americas? It sounds like a conspiracy theory to some, but to others it is a stolen legacy. To understand this debate, we have to separate emotional truth from archaeological fact. We have to look at the evidence that proponents of pre-Columbian contact bring to the table. This isn't just about stone heads, it is about a fundamental reassessment of human capability. The mainstream academic consensus has long held that the Americas were populated via the Bering Strait land bridge from Asia. But in the 1970s, a Guyanese scholar named Ivan van Sertima published a book that would shatter that consensus in the public imagination. His work, They Came Before Columbus, didn't just suggest African presence, it argued for African influence. Suddenly, the colossal heads weren't just art, they were viewed by many as portraits of visitors, kings, explorers.
But before we dive into the science that either proves or debunks this, we have to understand the gravity of the claim. If Black people were in America before Columbus, the entire foundation of the discovery collapses. The narrative of African people in the Americas, beginning solely with the tragedy of the transatlantic slave trade, would be rewritten. It would transform a history of victimization into a history of exploration. However, history requires proof. It requires more than just a resemblance in stone. It requires botany, genetics, and hard data. As we peel back the layers of the Olmec mystery, we find ourselves standing at a crossroads between what we want to be true and what the ground actually tells us. The seeds of this controversy were planted in the soil of Mexico, but the roots stretch all the way back to the Nile Valley and the coast of West Africa. If the Olmec heads provided the face of the theory, Dr. Ivan van Sertima provided the voice. In 1976, amidst the bicentennial celebrations of the United States, van Sertima released a book that would ripple through universities, barbershops, and living rooms across Black America. To understand the weight of this moment, we must remember the cultural climate. The 1970s was a decade of reclaiming identity. Roots were being traced, and the narrative of African history was being aggressively pulled out of the shadows of colonialism. Van Sertima, a literary critic and linguist at Rutgers University, did not just suggest a few castaways washing ashore. He argued for a deliberate, sophisticated contact. His thesis was bold. He claimed that Africans had not only reached the Americas, but had done so in two distinct waves. The first, he argued, was during the 25th dynasty of Egypt, the Nubian period, around 700 BCE. The second, and perhaps more detailed claim, involved the Mandingo people of the Mali Empire in the 14th century. The idea wasn't just that they arrived, but that they brought civilization with them. Van Sertima built his case on what he called cultural analogies. He pointed to the existence of pyramids in Mesoamerica and pyramids in Egypt. He highlighted the similarities in mummification practices, the use of the color purple for royalty, and the specific positions of burial. To the diffusionist, someone who believes civilization spreads from a central point rather than developing independently, these similarities were too precise to be coincidental. But the most captivating part of the thesis involved a missing king. History tells us of Mansa Musa, the king of Mali, famously known as the richest man in history. But Van Sertima pointed to Musa's predecessor, Abu Bakr II.
According to Arab historical accounts recorded by al-Umari, Abu Bakr II was obsessed with the limits of the Atlantic Ocean. He reportedly abdicated his throne, assembled a massive fleet of 2,000 ships, some for men, some for supplies, and sailed west into the ocean of darkness and fog, never to return. Van Sertima asked a logical question. If they sailed west from the coast of Senegal, the ocean currents, specifically the Canary Current and the North Equatorial Current, would act as a conveyor belt. It would deposit them almost automatically into the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico. Is it possible that the gods from the east mentioned in Aztec mythology were actually these West African voyagers? Imagine a massive, invisible river moving through the ocean. This current runs off the coast of Senegal and the Gambia, sweeping westward across the Atlantic and depositing anything caught in its grip directly into the Caribbean basin and the Gulf of Mexico. This is the same current that hurricanes follow today. In the 1950s, a German doctor named Alain Bombard tested the survivability of this route. He drifted on a solitary raft without provisions, drinking seawater in small amounts and eating plankton and raw fish. He survived the crossing. Later, in 1969 and 1970, the Norwegian adventurer Thor Heyerdahl launched the Ra expeditions. He built a boat made entirely of papyrus reeds. While the first boat, Ra 1, fell apart, the Ra 2 successfully sailed from Morocco to Barbados. Heyerdahl proved a crucial point. It was physically possible. The technology existed. The currents existed. The ocean was not an impassable void. So we have the currents, we have the ships, and we have the faces in the stone. It paints a picture of a global black history that was maritime, adventurous, and technically advanced. But a compelling story is not always the same as a factual one. To claim that a fleet of 2,000 ships arrived is one thing. To prove they built a civilization is another. In part 2 of this series, we will leave the legends behind and enter the laboratory. We will examine the DNA evidence, the archaeological trash, and the cold, hard facts that either confirm or destroy this theory. Did the Mandingo fleet truly land? And if they did, why can't we find their bones? Join me in the next video as we separate the myth from the reality.